Hey guys, this is Nate and this is the Nader Tater channel. Alright, so what we have here is the Waveform 4x4 MIMO antenna. This is the new combined unit. I also have their 2x2 MIMO unit. This is a panel antenna. It has 2 leads. This one has 4 leads. So let me go through and kind of compare these two antennas of why you might want to spend the money to get the 4x4 over the 2x2. And I'll also touch on the log periodic directional antenna, which is the triangle shaped one. Some people call it a Yagi antenna, which is kind of the incorrect term. But I'll talk about kind of the pros and cons of those, as well as unbox this, see what this kit includes. Now specifically, this is kind of about the T-Mobile home internet as where I'll be testing this on. But this works on other hotspots or other cell-based routers as well. Alright, so first off, let's open up what's in here. Okay, so this is their 4x4 kit. So it includes everything I need to hook this up to my T-Mobile gateway, either the black Arcadian KBD21 or the Nokia gray trash can that people call it. Now they include a full color instruction book here that tells you all kinds of tips and tricks with it, as far as how to test it, how to install it, that kind of stuff, as well as you know, other pieces that you can buy and get. So that's a nice descriptor. You know, if you buy some of the other ones, you know, that are cheaper on there, you're lucky to get instructions, especially ones that are you know, able to be read and understood. So with this kit, it also comes with this J mount. So this is a universal you know, method that you can adjust this at different angles, mount it outside, mount it along the roof, mount it in the attic, kind of wherever best fits there. Outside is the best. With that, it comes with the hardware for the J mount. And then as far as the cabling goes, this one I did get the extra lightning arrestor, so this prevents any kind of electrical you know, current from traveling from outside and coming inside to one of your gateways or other devices. So that's like a grounding method for it. So there's 4 of these because there's 4 cables, right? So each of those has its own connector there. And then this big bundle here is 4 different cables that cover the MIMO spectrum from the antenna down to the gateway. So inside of here, they also have different types of adapter cables. So this is the TS9 adapter cable. It goes from an SMA to TS9. TS9 is the round connector type that a lot of the hotspots tend to have for their external antennas. Unfortunately, on our gateways, we don't have nice ports on the outside of it, so we have to hack into it, take it apart. I have videos on how to do that. And then the other little adapter cable here are these little pigtails, and this goes from the U.FL connector that's on the boards of these gateways back to SMA. So that's what you need to get from outside the gateway, and then there are adapter cables here to get from SMA back to this this N-type connector that is on the bigger cables that then go out. So these bigger cables are really designed for running about 30 feet from your gateway to where the antenna is installed, which for most installation that is enough. And what you'll see on this bundle here is on one end they have the type N connectors, and on the other end they have the smaller SMA connectors. And the point of that, this is actually kind of a newer cable that Waveform has gone to, and it's because these type in connectors are so big. If you needed to get them through the wall, you can see how big of a hole you need to get them through. And so these SMA connectors are much smaller and much easier to route through the wall. So this now allows you to run this smaller end through the wall, and you have this one always on the outside of the house that you're running the cabling to, and so that helps with that. Now there is some loss that happens with the cabling, and so that's why you want to keep it as short as possible. But if you did need a specific length, or for example if you knew you had a really short length, maybe you only need 10 feet or 15 feet for where you want to mount this stuff, you can actually work with them and they will make you a custom, or at least a semi-custom length cable if you don't need the one that comes in the kit itself. Now this cabling looks like it is all bonded together. I'm probably not going to open it all up, but it is one kind of single bundle, which helps keep it nice and tidy at least. And then it only flares out to the 4 connectors in the last distance. It looks like about 8 inches here for the SMA side, and then for the N type, it looks like it's closer to about a foot of distance that it has outside of the big bundle. So that's how they have this set up. And then over here we have the actual antenna itself. Now these guys are not very heavy, they're pretty light, because obviously it's a plastic shell, and inside there is the metal array in there that picks up the signal. So it has this backing here, and this is what attaches to your pole mount here. You get a little bracket right here that bolts up to here, and then this is what attaches to the pole mount. Now you can obviously not use a pole mount if you have another place that you're going to mount this on the side of a wall or something, that there's room that you could do that. But then off of this one, it has the 4 N-type connectors that are they are weather rated. That's why they're typically used for these, is they are a sealed connector. I like to still run a thing of silicone tape around them after it's all done installed. That way it's double waterproof. But this guy over the 2x2, get caught here, you can see it's roughly twice the size. It's not quite, but one of the benefits of this over even 2 of these is that this one is set up and arranged to work as a 4x4 MIMO. If you get 2 of these, the spacing between them actually matters. And even worse, I would say, is if you go to the log periodic directional ones, those ones are even more critical with the way you have them set up. So when you have them on the pole mount, the orientation, the 45-degree orientation, and the vertical spacing actually matters for how those get set up. And then if you go to a 4x4 with those log periodics, then it gets even more complicated, because that lateral spacing between them on the horizontal plane actually does matter with the ability for them to pick up the signal. So this is like a one-shot and done antenna that's all set up from the get-go to do that. The other thing is, with going to a 4x4, you get more speed even if you get the same signal quality. And the way that happens is MIMO is all about using more streams, is what they call them, from the tower to this. And so any kind of signal is limited by the bandwidth of that, and then also the signal to noise ratio. There's actually something called Shannon's law, which is what dictates how fast of a signal the data can transfer, and that's based off of, one is the bandwidth of the signal, and that's like in megahertz. And so you'll see, like, some of the worst channels be 5 megahertz or 10, 15, 20 is starting to get better. But then they have, if you get into the 5G spectrum, you can really get some higher bandwidth signals, which helps with speed. But then that's also based off your signal to noise ratio, and that's where having a good antenna can help that signal to noise ratio to get your speed up. But then the other part of that, like I said, is that with a MIMO setup, you get multiple streams, so you effectively get more connections that allow you to aggregate them and stack them up and get more speed. So this antenna in the same place as a 2x2 panel, this guy, should get you roughly 25 to 50% better speed because it has double the streams out there. So I'm going to test that. I've had this up in the attic, and I left the pole mount for this one up there, so I'm going to do a speed test with this guy installed, and then just unplug and plug in this one in the exact same place, and we'll see. And then I'll also play with this one since this is in the attic. Now I'll put this one outside as well, and see just how big of an improvement I can get from my gateway being in the attic and without the antennas, and then with the external antennas out there. So the other thing that is a benefit of this 4x4 one is actually that it has some better capability at higher frequencies as well than this 2x2 MIMO one. So this one they claim goes up to like the 6,000 megahertz range, and it has much better gain than this one does up in that higher spectrum. And that is, for example, there's a LTE-U, which is unassigned or unlicensed space that T-Mobile has played with it, dabbled with it, so it's out there in some places, but it's a way for them to speed up their LTE bandwidth by leveraging those unused frequency blocks of the spectrum. So this can pick that up if you have that area or if they grow that space. The other thing that it has capability for is the C-band space. So Verizon has C-band, AT&T bought C-band frequencies, and then T-Mobile did as well. And so in the 3.8 gigahertz, which is 3,800 megahertz range, this one has good capability to pick up those signals. And then it does go down to the 600 megahertz range, which is where, like in 71, B71 is for the T-Mobile stuff. So this can really capture much of the channels that are out there that are needed, or the bands that are out there for the major carriers in the US. All right, so the other benefit of buying this single 4x4 one over adding up a couple 2x2s or something is that it's actually cheaper to do it this way. You can get away with one pole mount and one set of cabling there. So that is cheaper. And then the other really key thing is on these gateways, from my experimentation with the T-Mobile stuff, is even though some of the gateways are kind of claimed to be really a 2x2 capability, what we've seen is that different ports on the gateways have different bands that they seem to be focusing on. And so it actually matters when you're dealing with a 2x2 of which ports you're plugging in this antenna to, whereas with this 4x4, you get to plug in all 4 of them to a antenna that is similar or the same frequency range and capability for each of those channels, which is really what that gateway is expecting. So this means that you don't have to worry about, well, should I go on these two, or should I mix and match different ones there. So that's another big benefit. But what I think everyone's interested in is knowing, does it buy me any faster speed? And for me, I'm about 1 mile from my tower. I get both in 71 and in 41 at least when I have a good antenna out there. And then I get B2, B66 channels on the 4G side for my base. And so I've seen really good improvement with speed by using the 2x2. And now the question is, will this 4x4 further help my speeds, or will it not show a big benefit? So for that one, I'm going to have a dedicated video of me installing this and comparing it apples to apples with this guy, and that will be coming out shortly after this one. So check out my channel to look for that video. And then of course, if you are interested in buying one of these, use my link in the video description, and that'll get you I think 5% off on any of your purchases here with Waveform. So that gives you a little bit of discount, and it's best to buy direct from waveform.com with that, although you can get a lot of their products on Amazon as well. Alright, well, thanks for watching. If you have questions, or if you have anything that you want to make sure I cover for next week's video on the installation and comparison, put it in the comments down below. I'll try to read them, I'll try to respond to them, and if it's something I can perform or do for the next video, then I will certainly attempt it. So give me a shout out down below, and always a like and a subscribe if you haven't done that as well. Thanks.